The detective's coffee cup slipped from his hand, hitting the floor with a crash that made everyone in the police station waiting room jump. Brown liquid spread across the tile as he stared at me, eyes wide with recognition. "Mrs. Hayes?" he whispered. "The shadow?" My grandson Tyler's face drained of all color. His girlfriend Amber grabbed his hand, her smile freezing in place. The lawyer they'd hired to file conservatorship papers suddenly found the floor very interesting. Detective James Miller set his clipboard down slowly, carefully, like he was defusing a bomb. "Ma'am, I need everyone else to step outside for a moment. Standard procedure for these welfare checks." Tyler shot to his feet. "Now wait. We're here because Grandma Barbara is a danger to herself. She can't live alone anymore. You can't just Mr. Hayes." Miller's voice had that particular quality I remembered teaching at Quantico, authoritative without aggression. "I'm the law enforcement officer here. If you'd like me to complete this wellness evaluation, I'll do it properly. Otherwise, you're welcome to file your complaint through proper channels." They left. The door clicked shut, and Miller turned to me with the kind of respect I hadn't seen in my grandson's eyes for months. "You're here voluntarily, aren't you?" I smiled, reaching into my purse for the small recorder I'd been carrying for 3 months. "Does it look like I've lost my mind, James? You were in my criminal psychology 301 class at Quantico. 2009, I believe. You got an A- because you couldn't profile the unsub in the final practical." He sat down heavily. "You let me think the suspect was male, turned out to be his sister, and you learned never to assume. Good. Because I need you to document everything my grandson just said, and I need you to be very thorough about this evaluation." His eyes sharpened with understanding. "You're investigating them." "I've been building a profile for 3 months, I said quietly. "And James, it's bad. Bad enough that I need an official paper trail before this goes to court. Bad enough that I'm sitting here pretending to be a confused old woman so you can document my complete mental competency." I pulled out a small external hard drive, the kind we use to store case files. "This is encrypted with a code you'll recognize. Everything I've documented is on here. If something happens to me before I'm ready to move, you know who to contact at the bureau." Miller took it, his jaw tight. "Jesus, Barbara. How bad? Financial exploitation, possible drugging, forged medical documents, and an attempted conservatorship scam. Tyler's girlfriend has done this before, twice. Once in Arizona, once in Nevada. Both cases settled quietly." I leaned back, letting my shoulders slump slightly, adding a small tremor to my hands that wasn't entirely fake. "Now, let's give my grandson exactly what he's expecting. Ask me what year it is. Let me hesitate just a little." 4 months earlier, I'd been in my garden in Portland when I heard them through my open kitchen window. My house sits on a quiet street in the Pearl District, a renovated Victorian I bought after retiring from the FBI 12 years ago. That particular afternoon in June, I was pruning my roses when Tyler's voice carried through the screen. "She left the stove on again yesterday, Amber. I saw it when I came by. Burner was still hot." "That's the 3rd time this month, baby." That was Amber, the girlfriend who'd moved in with Tyler 2 months ago. Someone could get hurt. I stood very still, my pruning shears frozen mid-cut. I had not left my stove on. I never cooked on Tuesdays because that was my volunteer day at the literacy center. My stove hadn't been used in 3 days. "She's 71 next month," Tyler continued. "Living alone in this huge house. All that FBI pension and savings just sitting there. The house alone is worth $900,000. "Your grandmother worked hard her whole life," Amber said, and I could hear the calculation in her voice even from outside. "She deserves to be somewhere safe. Somewhere with people who can watch her 24/7. "Conservatorship is complicated," Tyler said slowly. "Not if she's genuinely incapable of caring for herself. You're her only family, Tyler. If something happened, if she fell, if she had an accident and couldn't make decisions, you'd have to step in anyway. Wouldn't it be better to have everything legal now? My uncle's a lawyer. He specializes in elder care. He could have papers drawn up this week." I didn't move until I heard Tyler's car pull away 20 minutes later. Then I went inside, pulled up my security camera footage, and watched Tyler enter my house with his key, walk to my stove, and turn on a burner. He left it on for 30 minutes, came back, took photos, then turned it off. I sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd reviewed hundreds of case files over 35 years with the FBI, and I felt something I hadn't felt since I'd profiled my last serial killer. The cold, analytical clarity that came from recognizing a predator. My grandson was hunting me. I made myself a cup of tea, Earl Grey with honey, and I thought about the 23 years I'd spent in the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit. About the criminals I'd profiled, the patterns I'd identified, the predators I'd helped catch. They'd called me the Shadow because I could slip into a suspect's mind, see the world through their eyes, predict their next move before they made it. Tyler had no idea who he was trying to con, but Amber did, or she would. Because while I'd been the doting grandmother for the past 12 years, while I'd sent birthday checks and attended Tyler's college graduation, Amber had done research. A week after that overheard conversation, I ran my own background check. Amber Collins, 32. Psychology degree never completed. Previous relationships with 3 older men, all of whom had experienced financial difficulties after she entered their lives. She moved cities every 18 to 24 months. And there it was, buried in Nevada court records. A sealed case from 3 years ago where an 82-year-old widower's children had sued her for undue influence. She'd convinced him to add her name to his accounts, taken $67,000, and disappeared. The case settled when she returned $30,000 and the record was sealed. She was running the same play. But this time, she'd picked someone who spent 3 decades hunting people exactly like her. I started documenting everything. Every conversation, every concerned visit where Tyler would mention how I'd seemed confused lately. Every time Amber would casually reference a friend whose grandmother had gotten hurt living alone. Every time they'd bring up power of attorney or conservatorship or how much safer I'd be in a facility. I also started playing a role. In behavioral analysis, we call it establishing a baseline, then disrupting it. You make the suspect believe you're predictable, vulnerable. You give them exactly what they expect to see. So I started forgetting things. Small things at first. I'd ask Tyler to remind me what day his birthday was. I'd misplace my phone where he could see it. I'd trail off mid-sentence, laugh, and say, "You know how it is at my age." I'd mention the same story twice in one visit. I watched Tyler's concern become certainty, watched Amber's patience become urgency, and I documented every single moment with the same precision I'd used documenting crime scenes. The breakthrough came in July. Amber brought over dinner, homemade lasagna with a salad. "I wanted to do something nice," she said, all smiles. "You've been so welcoming to me." I ate the lasagna. It was good, rich with cheese and herbs. Amber knew her way around a kitchen. The next morning, I woke up at 11 a.m., groggy and disoriented. My mouth tasted like cotton. My head felt stuffed with wool. I sat up slowly, recognizing the symptoms immediately. I'd seen them hundreds of times in interview rooms, in victims who'd been incapacitated. Benzodiazepines, probably lorazepam or something similar. Not enough to hospitalize me, just enough to make me confused, suggestible, to make me sleep through the morning. My phone showed 5 missed calls from Tyler. According to my doorbell camera, he'd stopped by at 8:30 a.m., had knocked, had let himself in with his key. The interior cameras I'd installed, hidden in smoke detectors and picture frames, showed the rest. Tyler, letting himself in, calling my name, coming upstairs, taking photos of me unconscious in bed at 10 a.m., looking concerned, looking sad, looking like a devoted grandson worried about his grandmother. Then going through my desk, photographing bank statements, making notes on his phone, taking pictures of my medication bottles. I saved everything to 3 encrypted drives, then sat at my kitchen table and had what I recognized as a genuine panic attack. My hands shook, my chest tightened, my breathing went shallow and fast, because Tyler was my daughter Sarah's son, Sarah, who died in a car accident when Tyler was 8, Sarah, who'd made me promise to look after her boy, Sarah, who'd been brilliant and kind and strong, and her son was drugging me and documenting my decline so he could steal from me. I let myself cry for exactly 15 minutes. Then I washed my face, took 3 deep breaths, using the technique I'd taught to agents having their first crisis, and called my lawyer. "Barbara Hayes speaking," I said into my phone recorder at the same time. Today is July 18th, 2024, 10:45 a.m. I am 70 years old and I am of completely sound mind. I have reason to believe my grandson Tyler Hayes and his girlfriend Amber Collins are attempting to gain conservatorship over me under false pretenses. I am voluntarily requesting a mental competency evaluation, and I want everything documented. My lawyer, Patricia Kim, didn't waste time on shock. We'd worked together on cases for years. What do you need? If anyone tries to file conservatorship papers with my signature, challenge them immediately. I want a full psychological evaluation showing I'm competent. And Patricia, I need you to contact Agent Sarah Chen at the FBI Portland field office. Tell her the shadow is back on the hunt. 3 days later, Agent Chen sat in my living room, looking at the evidence I'd compiled. Barbara, this is solid, really solid. But why not just confront them now? Because I need to know how deep this goes. Is it just Tyler and Amber, or are there others? Her uncle the lawyer? Other victims we don't know about? If I confront them now, Amber disappears. Tyler claims he was manipulated, and she does this to someone else in 6 months. Chen nodded slowly. You want to build a federal case? I want to burn down her entire operation. And I want Tyler to have to face what he's done, fully, completely, with no excuses. I pulled out my profile notes. Amber fits the pattern of a practiced con artist. She targets families with elderly members, identifies the weak link, usually someone with financial problems or substance issues, and exploits that vulnerability. Tyler's gambling debts make him perfect. Gambling debts? $32,000. I found the payment notices in his apartment when I visited last month. He doesn't know I saw them. Online poker mostly. Some sports betting. Chen shook her head. So, she dangles the solution. Your money. And turns him into an accomplice. Exactly. And the conservatorship gives them legal access to everything. My house, my pension, my savings. All of it. I handed her a folder. I need surveillance authorization. I want to record every interaction. I want to know everyone in her network. And I want you ready to move when I give the signal. The evaluation with Detective Miller was scheduled for October 10th. Tyler had pushed for it, had found a concerned officer who does welfare checks on vulnerable adults. He didn't know Miller had been my student, didn't know that in the law enforcement community, especially among those who'd trained at Quantico, my reputation was legend. The day before the evaluation, I did something I hadn't done in 12 years. I called my former partner, Marcus Webb. Webb speaking. Marcus, it's Barbara. A long pause. The shadow herself. I thought you'd retired from chasing monsters and taken up gardening. The roses are lovely this year, but Marcus, I need you to know something. If anything happens to me in the next week, call Detective Miller at Portland PD. I'm texting you his number. Tell him to check my safe deposit box at First National. Barbara, what the hell is going on? Insurance, Marcus. Just insurance. Probably nothing. You never do probably nothing. You do calculated risks based on extensive profile analysis. I smiled at the phone. I taught you too well. Whatever you're doing, be careful. You're not in the field anymore. You can't control every variable like you used to. No, I agreed, but I can control enough. The evaluation lasted 4 hours. Miller was thorough in exactly the way I'd taught him to be. He asked me to count backward from 100 by sevens, to recall 3 objects he'd named at the start, to explain what I'd done yesterday, to tell him who the current president was. I performed perfectly. Then I'd hesitate. I'd lose my train of thought mid-sentence. I'd ask if I'd already answered a question. I'd show just enough confusion to be concerning, but not enough to be definitive. Tyler and Amber sat in the waiting area, and through the glass I could see Amber's anticipation, Tyler's nervous fidgeting. When we finished, Miller stepped out to give them an update. I watched through the cracked door. Mrs. Hayes is showing some memory inconsistencies, Miller said carefully. Some confusion about recent events. It's not uncommon at her age. See? Tyler said. She needs help. Professional care. However, Miller continued, I'm not comfortable declaring her unable to care for herself based on one conversation. Her reasoning seems intact. She answered complex questions correctly. But she can't remember basic things, Amber interjected, Last week, she asked Tyler 3 times if he was coming to dinner. Miller's expression went professional. Memory issues don't automatically equal incapacity. If you have concerns, you should consult with her doctor and a qualified psychiatrist, not a police wellness check. What about her safety? Tyler pressed. The stove incidents? Mrs. Hayes, Miller said slowly, pulling out his phone. Do you have security cameras in your home? I walked out from the interview room, standing straighter than I had in months. Yes, detective. I installed them 3 months ago. Full coverage. Would you like to see the footage from the day my grandson claims I left the stove on? The silence was beautiful. Tyler's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Amber had gone very pale. She was smart enough to understand what that meant. I pulled out my phone, opened the folder I'd prepared. Tyler, sweetheart, did you want to explain to Detective Miller why the camera footage shows you entering my house with your key, turning on my stove burner, leaving it on for 30 minutes while you sat in your car, then returning to photograph it before turning it off? Grandma, I can explain. Can you also explain the lorazepam metabolites that would show up in my blood test the morning after I ate Amber's lasagna? The photos you took of me unconscious? The bank statements you photographed without permission? I looked at Miller. Detective, I believe you'll want to see all of this. I handed him a USB drive. 3 months of surveillance footage, documentation of every staged incident, background information on Miss Collins, including her sealed case in Nevada for elder financial exploitation, text messages between my grandson and Miss Collins discussing how much my house is worth and how they'd spend the money, and my full psychological evaluation from Dr. Patricia Morrison at Oregon Health Sciences, completed yesterday, showing I have absolutely no cognitive impairment. Amber grabbed her purse. I don't have to listen to this. Actually, you do. Agent Chen stepped into the waiting room, FBI credentials in hand. Amber Collins. I'm Special Agent Sarah Chen, FBI. We have some questions about a pattern of elder financial exploitation across 3 states. You have the right to remain silent. Tyler sank into a chair as Chen read Amber her rights. Grandma, I didn't know. She said we were helping you. She said you'd be happier, safer. Did you know when you drugged me? I asked quietly. When you photographed me unconscious? When you went through my financial documents? His face crumpled. I'm so sorry. I was in debt. I was desperate. She said it would be easy, that you'd be taken care of, that you'd never know. I'm a criminal profiler, Tyler. I spent 35 years identifying predators and their patterns. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? Miller stepped forward. Mrs. Hayes, for the record, I'm documenting that you show no signs of cognitive impairment, confusion, or inability to care for yourself. In fact, you've just demonstrated investigative skills that would put most of my detectives to shame. Thank you, detective. Though I believe the accurate terminology is that I demonstrated the investigative skills I taught to most of your detectives. I looked at Tyler. Your mother was my daughter. When she died, I promised her I'd look after you. Did you really think I'd abandon you if you'd just told me about the debt? He couldn't meet my eyes. Tyler, I've spent decades studying human behavior. I understand desperation. I understand how skilled manipulators work. But you made a choice. You chose to see me as a target instead of asking for help. That's not Amber's fault. That's yours. 6 weeks later, I sat in my garden with Agent Chen and Detective Miller, reviewing the case. Amber Collins pled guilty to 3 counts of elder financial exploitation across 3 states, Chen said. She's looking at 18 months federal prison, 5 years probation, and full restitution to all victims. We found 2 other ongoing cases she was working on. What about Tyler? Miller asked. I pulled a dead bloom from my roses. That's my decision. The DA said they'd defer to my wishes as the victim. And? Chen prompted. He's in therapy, twice a week with Dr. Morrison, who specializes in addiction and manipulation victims. He's in Gamblers Anonymous. He sold his car, moved to a cheaper apartment, and he's working 2 jobs to pay off his debts. He hasn't gambled in 6 weeks. You're not pressing charges, Chen said. I'm not interested in destroying my grandson's life. I'm interested in him learning from this, in him becoming the man his mother wanted him to be. I looked at both of them. Sending him to prison doesn't fix what's broken. It just makes sure it stays broken. Miller shook his head. You're more forgiving than most people would be. I'm not forgiving. I'm strategic. Tyler made terrible choices, but he was also manipulated by a professional. If he does the work, really does it, he has a chance. If he doesn't, then there are consequences. But I want to give him the chance his mother would have wanted him to have. Tyler came to see me a week later. He'd lost weight, had circles under his eyes, looked both younger and older somehow. Grandma, he said from my doorstep, I don't expect you to let me in. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For all of it. I looked at him for a long moment. Are you in therapy? Twice a week. Dr. Morrison says I have what she calls weak boundaries and a desperate need for external validation, which apparently made me perfect for someone like Amber. And the gambling? 43 days clean. I'm working with a financial counselor. I'll be paying off my debts for the next 3 years, but I'll do it. He met my eyes finally. I know you have no reason to trust me. I know I destroyed what we had. But I'm trying to be better. To be someone Mom would have been proud of. I opened the door wider. I made lemonade. Come sit in the garden. Are you sure? Tyler, I spent 35 years in the FBI. I've seen people come back from worse than this. The question isn't whether you can change, it's whether you're willing to do the work. We sat in my garden, drinking lemonade, talking about small things, the roses, the weather, the book on financial literacy his counselor had recommended. Grandma, he said eventually, why didn't you ever tell me what you did? That you were this famous FBI profiler? I considered my answer carefully. After your mother died, you were so angry. At the drunk driver, at God, at the world. I didn't want you to see me as Special Agent Hayes, the profiler. I wanted to be Grandma Barbara, who made cookies and helped with homework. I wanted to be safe for you. I never knew. But Tyler, I need you to understand something. I may have hidden my professional past, but I never stopped being that person. When you underestimated me, when you assumed I was just a confused old woman, you forgot that age doesn't erase competence. It just adds experience. And it definitely doesn't erase the ability to recognize when someone is profiling you as a target. He nodded slowly. I won't forget again. Good. Because I'm still the shadow. I'm just retired. And retirement doesn't mean I've lost my edge. It means I'm more selective about when I use it. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Tyler said, Do you think Mom would forgive me? I think your mother would be disappointed. But I also think she'd be proud that you're taking responsibility and trying to fix things. That's all any of us can do, Tyler. Acknowledge the mistake. Make amends. Do better. Are we going to be okay? Will we ever be okay? That depends on you. On whether you follow through. On whether you become someone trustworthy again. I looked at him directly. But I'm not giving up on you. Your mother wouldn't have, and neither will I. 8 months later, I got a call from Detective Miller. Barbara, I have a request. I'm teaching a course on elder abuse recognition for new recruits. Would you be willing to come speak? You want me to tell a room full of police officers that I let my grandson try to scam me? I want you to tell them how you recognized the signs, how you documented everything, and how you protected yourself. Elder abuse is epidemic. Most victims don't have your skills, but if law enforcement knows what to look for, we can help. So I did. I stood in front of 60 police recruits and told them about stove burners turned on remotely, about lasagna with benzodiazepines, about financial documents photographed without consent, about how even a former FBI profiler can be targeted if the predator is skilled enough. The key, I told them, is documentation. If you suspect something, document it. If an elderly person seems suddenly confused only around certain family members, document it. If you see financial exploitation, you're mandatory reporters in this state. Document and report. A young officer raised her hand. But what if we're wrong? What if we damage a family relationship? What if you're right, I countered, and you do nothing? Elder abuse leads to early death, to loss of autonomy, to preventable harm. Yes, be careful, be thorough, but don't assume that age means someone can't be victimized. In fact, the elderly are often the most vulnerable precisely because people make assumptions about their capabilities. After the lecture, 5 officers approached me. Each had a story, A grandmother who seemed different around her new caregiver. A grandfather whose money had mysteriously disappeared. An elderly neighbor who flinched around certain visitors. Document it, I told each of them. Trust your training. If something feels wrong, investigate. You're not overreaching. You're protecting someone who may not be able to protect themselves. That night, I called Tyler. How's the debt repayment going? Down to $21,000. 2 more years at this rate. Good. Listen, I need your help with something. Anything, Grandma. I'm working with a group that provides education on elder financial abuse. We need someone who can speak from the perpetrator's perspective. Someone who can explain how the manipulation works, how someone gets drawn in. Would you be willing to share your story? Long silence. You want me to stand up and tell people I tried to steal from my grandmother? I want you to help prevent it from happening to someone else. You have insight, Tyler. You know what desperation looks like from the inside, how manipulation feels. That's valuable. That could save someone. Another pause. You really think it would help? I think your mother would be proud of you for turning your worst mistake into something that protects others. Okay, he said finally. Yeah, I'll do it. 4 months later, we presented together at a conference on elder abuse prevention. Me with the investigative perspective, Tyler with the psychological one. The room was standing room only. I convinced myself I was helping her, Tyler told them. That's how it works. You don't wake up one day and decide to steal from your grandmother. It happens in small steps. A suggestion here, a rationalization there, someone telling you that you're being responsible, that you're protecting them. And before you know it, you're photographing bank statements and telling yourself it's for their own good. People asked questions. How do you recognize when concern becomes control? How do you protect yourself from manipulation? How do you maintain healthy boundaries with aging family members? We didn't have all the answers, but we had our story. And stories, I've learned in 35 years of profiling criminals, are more powerful than statistics. Today, I'm 71. My garden is thriving. Tyler comes to dinner every Sunday. We're rebuilding trust the way you'd rebuild after an earthquake, carefully checking each foundation stone before adding the next. Dr. Morrison calls it earned trust, and she's right. Tyler has to earn back what he broke, but he's doing the work. Detective Miller and I have started a consulting service for law enforcement agencies across the Pacific Northwest. We've worked on 32 cases of suspected elder abuse in the past year. We've helped prosecute 8 perpetrators. We've prevented 4 conservatorships that weren't needed. We've connected 17 families with resources before the exploitation escalated. I'm not chasing serial killers anymore, but I'm still using my skills, still identifying predators and their patterns, still protecting people who need protection. They used to call me the shadow because I could slip into a criminal's mind and see the world through their eyes, because I could predict their moves before they made them, because I was always 3 steps ahead. Now they call me the shadow because I prove that just because you can't see someone's past doesn't mean it isn't there, watching, waiting, and that underestimating someone because of their age is the most dangerous mistake a predator can make.